It is Kevin in the Kevin Show
Wow.
with your host, Kevin.
Wow. You gonna do this one on your own?
Ready, Freddy?
I guess so.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Thoughts Not Facts morning show with your host, Kevin.
And Jennifer.
I'm TK's Garage 405.
And I am free and on the road.
Yeah. So we've been kind of missing a couple episodes here and there. We've been crazy busy. It's actually kind of why we're doing this show here today, but she had to go to Vegas for some family stuff there. And yeah, I've had a bunch of truck problems and other issues there, so I'm just getting back on track here, hopefully. Had some more problems here today, but hopefully after this week, that's enough of it.
We had one filler show with our youngest daughter. She loved it. She thinks now that she should be the host of the show. She thinks that she should take over Dad's position. She's like ready to take over. So we had to tell her that we're really sorry, but Dad was back and we were going to let him host the show. Yeah. So she was pretty cute.
Yeah, she did good. She did good for a little fill in there. So
our youngest son actually already bugged me 4 times. He said that he should have a chance to have a show. So
all right.
Anyway.
So we'll get to today's beer here. Actually not doing this in the morning for once. It's kind of a nice change. So this one is from Stonecloud Brewing. It's called Havana Affair Pilsner. It's a crisp lager from Oklahoma City. You guys can see that there. So we're curious if you guys think that we should get any different, like, that's a problem.
That is a problem. So I didn't drop it, just so we're clear.
Yeah. Okay, I'll be right back. I'm gonna grab some paper towel and
I think while he's doing that, we should go ahead and try this. It's
a bit hoppy.
It tastes like Pilsner. Okay.
Okay, well.
Now that it's fully opened.
Yeah.
I can't believe you didn't lick that up off
That's
the ground.
Weird. Why? I wonder.
I don't know. It wasn't even shaken up or anything. It's been sitting in the fridge.
I wonder if one of the kids was in the fridge earlier and messed up. Well, sorry about that. That was not meant to happen.
It happens though. I'm sure everybody has opened a beer or two. Don't walk away. Just don't. Everybody's opened a beer or two in their life and had a little explosion happen. So as you know, we don't do editing or cutting, so you get to see the real beer tasting and how we really experienced it.
All right. Hopefully we're still in the camera here.
We are still in the camera.
All right. Now I'm going to actually try it. I barely got any, and
sorry,
what I
I
did
messed
try
it up.
didn't taste that great.
It was all foam. It's actually not terrible. It's like...
Oh, it's like hoppy.
Yeah.
I'll drink it, but it's like a light hops.
Yeah,
but it's very
not,
distinct.
It's not terrible. I mean, you can taste it. It's not one of the ones that tastes so IPA-ish that I couldn't drink it.
It's like if you were at the very bottom of the IPA scale. That's what it tastes like.
That's kind of what it tastes like. It's like right
doesn't
before.
taste like a Pilsner.
It does not. It's like a Pilsner with hops.
Yeah.
I'm not doing a tasting. I just want to join in on the fun.
So anyways, we're going to talk about Las Vegas today. I guess you can kind of start because that was sort of your home for a while there.
Yeah, so when we actually met, I was living in Vegas. I lived there for 9 years. I moved there when I was, I think I was 23 when I moved there, and I lived there all the way till 2013. So actually, I think it was almost 10 years that I lived there. And when I first moved there, we called Vegas the 9th Island. That was one of the reasons why I was okay moving to Vegas, because there was a lot of Hawaiian culture in Vegas. And that was a big culture shock to go from living on a small island to Vegas. And there is still a lot of Hawaiian culture there. I actually noticed there was like the Hawaiian Festival still happens every year. So that means, it's been 10 years since I lived there, and they still do that. And there's a lot of that downtown in like Fremont Street. There's a lot of actual Hawaiian restaurants on Fremont Street.
Oh, yeah.
So that's some of the things, like when I moved to Vegas, why I moved there. But the things that I didn't like about Vegas when I first moved there was no water. That was a big, it's dry, it's a desert. I guess the biggest thing was that it was a city, but it wasn't like too big of a city when I first moved there. Like it was.
Yeah. So what year did you move there?
It would have been 20. Trying to figure out, like, my oldest was was it 3 years old, so 2003. That was when I would have moved there, and then I left in 2013. So I was there 10 years.
Yeah, and I think I started kind of going there around 2005, just for vacations and stuff. We probably came across past at some point, maybe, I don't know. I was there quite often for a while there. I was going there 4 times a year because you could go there for like a week, or, you know, like out of Canada, it was like hotels, flight, and car for a week for like $500. Well, I mean, it was like a no-brainer, right? You couldn't even go camping for a weekend for $500. So it was like I started doing that for a while, and it was just, there was a lot of fun things to do there and see, and the weather was always generally good. Like, generally speaking, it was pretty warm and that kind of stuff. So I just went regularly, and it was just like until the point where it just started getting more expensive or whatever, and then it was like less. But yeah, it was just kind of a cool place to go where things were very affordable, even if you didn't gamble, which that was always the thing that I heard was like, well, it's just all about gambling. And to this day, people still think that.
Yeah.
And I've never really gambled that much, right? Like if I do go on whatever, maybe like back then it'd be like, hey, I'm going to spend $50 a day or something like that gambling. And if I lose that in 5 minutes, then I'm going to go do something else. And that's what, I mean, even now we do the same thing basically, right? Like we're not going to sit there and spend thousands of dollars gambling. That's just not.
And I never gambled at all the whole time I lived there. Not one time. I didn't put $1 in the machine the entire time I lived there.
Which is probably good.
Yeah, I didn't like. I never moved to Vegas to gamble. I moved there for a lifestyle. It was a big change, and it was. I mean, I think the biggest change was not being around water, but there are tons of things to do in Vegas, and that's something like once I got past the fact that I was living in Vegas, you learn all the things that you can do as a local and all the different things that you can do with your family and things like that. So.
Yeah, there's definitely tons of stuff to do there. So we were just gonna talk a bit about that, I guess, like when you first start going, the typical tourist type things, you know, and then maybe if you live there, the other things, or if you were maybe doing a family vacation versus like a adult vacation, or places to stay and things like that, places we've stayed or whatever, right? So she's kind of got a different perspective from living there than I do as coming as a tourist, and then sort of evolving that into maybe being more of a kind of a high-end tourist, I guess we're going to call it, doing the different things that the normal people don't do. So like I said, I think that Vegas has something for everybody, right? So
yeah, so I mean, we were kind of talking about just different tourist things. To be honest, living there for so long, I never did these tourist things unless people came to visit. And anybody that you know that lives in Vegas will tell you the same thing. They don't go to the Strip. They don't go to shows. They stay away from all of that unless they absolutely have to. If somebody's going down to the Strip, it's because they work there. So I think I learned more about being a tourist since I haven't lived in Vegas, and I've actually done more tourist type things in the last 10 years of my life than I ever did when I lived there, because we do a lot of those fun things. So some of the things that we were talking about was there's actually some cool shows that are recorded in Vegas, right? And you can go to those places. Like we actually went a couple years ago, we took the kids to that Count Customs, and that was really cool. Like it was a really, they have like a little, like almost like a museum type setup that you can go and walk through, and some of the guys will come out and talk to you. And if you come at the right time, you can talk to all the different people or whatever, right? Yeah,
they say that the actors from the show come there sometimes. We never saw them. I've been there a couple times, I guess, and haven't, but other people said they have. And apparently the guys that lead the tour or whatever say they have, and they have the cars that they've done the show and things like that. So it's pretty cool to see. That's one of the ones that's maybe not super common, but it's like a little bit more. If you were watching the show, maybe that'd be something that you would go and do or whatever, but otherwise probably not.
And they were really good, like with the kids, like they came out and they were like, just the guys that were working there, like came out and had that hat that they put on John, like that crazy like hat or whatever, and super interactive and super fun. Like if that's just something that you're into as cars, like I think it's a cool experience, and it's cool to be able to take your kids there too. It's not just like you can only go as adults type of thing.
Yeah.
And then you had gone to go see Pawn Stars, you said. I've never been there.
Yeah, I think I've been there probably 10 times and they've never been there, which I think is kind of lame because everybody expects to see them when they go there, and they probably think, well, we've made our money, we don't need to be bothered by a million people. But, I mean, that's kind of to me, that's part of what you should be doing if you want to be in the spotlight like that, right? So, like I said, I've never seen them, been there a bunch of times, never even had a hint of them. I've asked people that work there and they're like, no, they're never here. So if you're planning on going to see them, you're not going to see them, but they do have some of the things there that they have had on the show and things like that you can buy. Yeah.
So yeah, we were talking about different things that just tourists do. Like everybody knows about gambling. There's also the Las Vegas sign. There's actually 2 Las Vegas signs you can go to. A lot of people don't realize that. There's 2 different ones you can go to get your picture taken at. So that's like a big thing. I was a wedding photographer in like Vegas, and I went to the Las Vegas sign at least once a week to take pictures of a bride by the sign. There's the strip tours. I've never done any of that. Have you ever done any of the strip tours?
I have not actually. It's kind of funny they do the bus tours and all that kind of stuff, but I never. I wouldn't say it's easy to walk in Vegas, but I mean
it's far.
When you're young
far.
and whatever, it's usually you're just drinking and walking and whatever, so you don't really think about like necessarily. I did take. There's a bunch of hotels there in the middle. There's about 4 or 5 hotels that connect with the tram. I've done that.
Oh yeah, I've done the tram with the kids, but there was that time, like just talking about the strip and walking, that we went with the kids and we decided we were going to walk down to like the Ross on the strip, and then we were going to walk to a restaurant, and at the end of the day we walked 10 miles.
Yeah, and I think what it is because you're not walking like directly. You have to like go up and down stairs and around the hotel and then through the little maze, and then you get back on the strip, and then you walk out maybe a couple hundred more feet, and then you get back.
And things are farther than they look. Like you
is.
see something and you're like, oh, I'm at this hotel and it's only a couple blocks down, but it's not really a couple blocks down. It ends up being like a mile down, but then like you said, you add all those little things.
Deceiving, yeah.
And so I think sometimes like people think, oh, I can just stay on the strip and not worry about transportation. And I think that is one thing, like as a tourist. And I noticed that this last time I went, actually, how many people rented cars. I was even telling Kevin that I was like, man, I've never seen so many rental cars before in Vegas. And I think that's one thing that people have been turning to more is renting cars. But I mean, why not get an Uber? It's like most of the time when people are in Vegas, they're drinking. Like unless you're exploring off the strip, I mean, just get an Uber from one hotel to another. It costs like $8. It was like we got an Uber and it was like super cheap. So that's just like a little tip if you're trying to get from one end to the other and realizing that when you type it in your phone and it says it's a 1.5 mile walk, sometimes it's better to just get an Uber.
I've stayed at a pile of hotels there. Like it still sort of is this way, but like you'd go get a player's card and you didn't have to gamble. They give you like maybe $10 free players, something like that, and like a t-shirt or this, that, or whatever, right? And so all that kind of stuff was pretty neat. And when I first started coming, I stayed at a bunch of different places, and then I'd stay someplace different all the time. And I stayed off strip, on strip. I've stayed at the Motel 6 just up the road from Excalibur there. Excalibur, Luxor. There was one that got torn down not that long ago. I've stayed at the Gold Coast, the Orleans, the Red Rock. I mean, there's tons. The Rio. So, and those were all cool. But I found now, like, the very first time that I went there, everybody's like, don't ever rent a car when you go to Vegas. You'll never be able to drive around. There's no parking, this and that. And I did the first time. And actually, that was the first probably 5, well, even probably 10 years of going, honestly. It was super easy to get around there. Like, you would drive to the next hotel and there was a gigantic, I mean, like every single hotel on the strip, for example, had parking lots there and they were empty. There was nobody there because everybody thought that, that everybody told everybody else, don't rent a car there. So then as time kind of progressed on here, and it's more happened probably in the last maybe like
5 years,
5-6 years or something like that, they started building all these stadiums, and now the stadiums are so close to the strip that they started charging for parking on the strip. And so that's, to me, has created a problem of like, number one, it's so expensive. Number two, people that would normally drive, or now that's another added expense and sort of a hassle to pay and all this stuff. So, you know, that's kind of been a problem.
When you stay on the strip, you're paying the resort fees, you're paying the hotel fees, and now you're paying parking fees on top of that. So if you're not paying attention, you could think that you're getting a hotel room for $30 a night, and it ends up being easily $150 a night because of all the fees they add onto it. And I think that's another thing. Like, it never used to be that bad. Like all those fees never added. Like, there was always the resort fee, but it's definitely gotten higher. Everything's gotten higher, and they have the parking fee now. Yeah,
somehow along the way, I stayed at the Excalibur. I might have stayed at the Luxor first, whatever it was, and then they started sending you, back then they didn't have, like, you wouldn't log online. It was like they would send you something in the mail saying, hey, we'll give you like cheap rooms and like X amount of player, X amount of food, or whatever it was there this amount of time for this price or whatever. And it was always like a really good deal. So that kept me kind of going back to like Luxor, Excalibur, MGM stuff. Excalibur and the Luxor were the two cheapest, so I just always stayed there because it's just normally a place to sleep, right? Like it didn't really matter. So I had been there a bunch of times, and it would just got to the point where it was like, well, it started off being like fairly cheap rooms, like maybe $30 a night or something during the week, maybe even less than that, and then $12 a night for resort fees, and then all of a sudden it was like turned into like the resorts fees started going up, and I think now they're about $35 a night, and then the hotel's not really as nice anymore. Like back then it was all brand new pretty much, right? And so, you know, it's not really as nice anymore. And now then they started charging for parking, and it was like $25 a day to park. So all that sort of stuff added up. And at one point here, actually, when we came back down here, they gave me a Pearl status card for being there so much. And then I got free parking again. I'm like, okay, well now this kind of like, so then we kept going there, and I had been there in the last few years there. Since we've been down in the U.S. here, I stayed there a bunch by myself just for work and things like that, passing through. And then we had been there a bunch because it was cheap, right? Yeah. It was like, it just made it a lot cheaper. So, you know, I don't know if these resorts are thinking of that kind of stuff anymore, or if they really care because they don't really need to worry about it for.
Well, I think they do, but they want you to come more often. Like we went almost 2 years without going, but I mean, you know, I think they think about that kind of stuff. It's just. They want the people that are going to be coming more often because they know you're going to spend more money. And they're trying to encourage you to come there more. So.
And the thing is, even though we never really gambled much, we always spent tons of money on food and tons of money in their stores and tons of money in like the Excalibur stuff or whatever. Take the kids to the whatever their game stuff, or
we went to the games,
go to the shows.
We did the show, like we took them to the tournament at the Kings.
Yeah,
like,
we ate there. Like
I think the thing is that if you're a tourist to Vegas the first time, there's a lot to do on just the Strip. Like if it's like your first time going, there's tons to do on the Strip. If you don't mind paying, you don't have to go to the big shows. Like you don't have to go to the Cirque show. I mean, I think the Cirque shows are amazing, but if you can't, like if you're on a tighter budget, there's tons of small shows. Like I remember the first time you came to Vegas, and like when we met, the first time we met, and we went to that little like, was it a comedy show? It was like downtown, and we went for like $10 or something. It was like just like a cheap like show. So there's lots of like shows you can go to that are cheaper, and they still do have them, but the bigger shows are going to cost more. So just depending on what your budget is, I think there's like kind of something for everybody, just like either on the Strip or downtown. If you're going to eat food, it is cheaper to eat off the Strip, like way cheaper to eat off the Strip than it is to eat on the Strip. So like if
there
you're
is
willing,
speaking to that a little bit, what you were just mentioning about the comedy thing, got me thinking about the Tickets for Less booth. And it is, so we walk down and it's like a 5-10 minute walk, whatever, from most hotels you can get to it. And there used to be tons of them after COVID. There wasn't as many anymore, and it wasn't as good at deals. But though there's still probably some of the cheapest. That's where we got the comedy.
Yeah, and
tickets.
if you go to actually Vegas.com, they actually have links there. I know as a local, we used to do that a lot. We go to Vegas.com, and they have a lot of links there for discounts and things like that. And there are other places, and even having a player's card, you don't necessarily have to gamble, but every casino you go to, get a player's card and make sure that you present your player's card when you eat or whatever, because they give you points for everything that you spend money on. So if you go to the buffet, you're going to get points. So every hotel that you walk into, make sure you have their player card. Like M Life has like 10 casinos there, so you can get one player card and it covers a bunch of casinos. And same thing with I'm trying to think of the other one. Boyd Gaming has like another 10 casinos. So you don't necessarily have to get a card for every casino, just for like the main company. And then, you know, I think just from there, like if you're going to be going back to Vegas again, that's when you can explore more. Like if you rent a car, like we talked about, like some of the other things that you've done. Like you haven't been to like Hoover Dam or anything like that, but there's things within an hour from Vegas. Like if you rent a car and you don't necessarily want to stay on the Strip, you can kind of expand on that. And then also we're, you know, talking about like, if you want.
I think one of the cool things I thought I did that I never have been back to do, I would like to still do it with you actually. I went to Laughlin one time and it was cool. There was like all these, like it was like the Harris Casino and I don't remember that, but it was kind of like basically the Vegas themed casinos, but like compact versions. And they were like on the Colorado River, and there was like, just happened to be that particular day, they were having like this tube race, and it was just a bunch of drunk guys like on tubes. They just got on these tubes and they're just tubing down the river, and there were just so many of them. And I asked somebody, and that's what it was. They were just having some beer, it was just kind of a fun thing or whatever. But that back then, I don't know what it is now, but you could rent like sea-doos for practically nothing on the river there and things like that. And there was one of the casinos is where they had like one of these huge shootouts with like the Hells Angels and someone else, one of the other gangs there had a big shootout there. But like that's like a pretty short drive. Prim, Nevada is on state line there. We've talked about that a little bit before, where you could just drive out there. It's like, it's not as good as it used to be, I would say, right?
I don't think it's as good as it used to be. Like, we used to actually go out there to go shopping as locals because it was so cheap, but there's like hardly any stores out there anymore. I mean, it's been 5 years since we've been there, and maybe it's gotten better. I don't know, but I can say the last couple times we went, it wasn't that great, but.
No. But, so if you were coming as like an entry-level tourist, most people stay on the Strip. And so this is the one thing that I've heard over the years is everybody's like, no, I shouldn't say everybody. Like, some people go and they're like, oh, I hated Vegas. There was nothing to do there. I'm like,
but there's so many even free things to do, like, even on the Strip. Like, the Bellagio fountains is so cool. Like, I've seen it a million times, especially since I was a photographer and we used to shoot there. And I still, to this day, when I go, I'm always amazed by the show. And then there's like the garden in the Bellagio. If you've been there more than once, they change it every season. It's actually really cool. I got to talk to one of the gardeners once because I used to be there all the time. And they have a whole garden like upstairs. They have like a whole greenhouse upstairs where they grow this stuff and prepare it for these like setups that they do. And then every season they come in and it has like a plaque that tells you like how many flowers and how many plants. And like I'm really into that kind of stuff, but like if you're into that kind of stuff, it's super cool. And then they have a couple other shows like right on the Strip. I don't know if all of them are still
like
going. The Pirates one used to be there.
Treasure Island used to have the pirate show there, but I think they
got rid of that one.
Yeah, and then where's the volcano?
The volcano is MGM, isn't it? Or I don't remember. I'm sorry, I don't remember.
Yeah, but there's, I mean, and it's like every half an hour they go or whatever and things like that, and just tons of things.
And now they have lots of sports. Like they have their hockey team, and they're actually going to be building a baseball field, so they're going to have their own baseball team. So there's a lot of even that for like sports people now, not just like it's not. I think they've really expanded to like what their reach is, and I mean, in my opinion,
it's definitely changed things, right? Like when you used to come as a tourist, you'd do the Strip and whatever, and if you've been there a few times, then you'd kind of expand off. And now it's gotten to be like, well, people will come there for like she said, like sports things now, and it's like it's a lot now. It's a lot. There's a lot of people there, and it's changed. The Strip used to be like every night they had street sweepers out there and people cleaning up and stuff, and you could almost eat off of it, right? Like it was like literally it seemed like that clean before, and now it's like it's kind of bums around to me. They just don't really clean it like they used to. Maybe they're not spending the money on it like they used to. So to me, like I used to love going there and I still enjoy going there, but it's not like a big destination like it used to be because of that kind of stuff. But again, we do off-strip things, which makes it kind of better that way, right?
So this last time I went, I actually met with one of my really good friends for breakfast, and we were talking about the longest open steakhouse in Vegas. It's called the Golden Steer. It was opened in 1958, and her boyfriend just got on their wait list, and it was a 3-month wait list. So like, if you're into like fine dining and like just something that's like, I mean, this is a pretty cool experience. This steakhouse is the longest open steakhouse in Vegas. So if you're planning a trip to Vegas, like, think about some things that you can like book ahead of time that, you know, are like this is an experience you would never have any, like, I think it's pretty amazing. I definitely, if we're good enough to like book out, I definitely would do like a reservation with him and I, because I think it would just be such a cool experience. And then, we were kind of talking about just things that like locals do, like not necessarily tourists, because that's how tourists have fun. They have fun when they start doing what the locals do. Yeah. And one of the big things was actually the year before I moved, I was part of this project, and it was called the Downtown Container Park, and now it's fully open, and they have restaurants and breweries and coffee shops, and it's kind of a cool, trendy little thing. It was actually put together by the CEO of Zappos before he passed away there, and so it holds a special place in my heart just because I was part of like the beginning of it, and I know.
To kind of elaborate on that, it's like it's actual sea cans, so like ship containers or whatever you guys call them in the US. I don't know, whatever we call them, sea cans, but they're just like shipping containers that they haul on the ships that have been like basically turned into like restaurants or stores or whatever.
That's right.
Which is really cool. It's supposed to be like, I think the idea at least that's what I remember it being, was they were trying to make it like an eco-friendly type
They
thing.
were trying to make it eco-friendly, and they were also trying to clean up downtown because
Yes.
Tony, who was the CEO of Zappos, his whole thing is that he wanted to see downtown Vegas cleaned out, and that was
Yeah.
like his passion and what he wanted to see happen. So,
And do you think it happened now? Do you think?
I actually haven't been. Like I was telling you, I wanted to go this last time, and I wanted to go and see what it was like. But I know 2 years ago we were right outside of the container yard. We were like 2 blocks from there, and there's a cool, trendy coffee shop. That was the one that you dropped me a note off at the one time. And that's all within the area. So they have a lot more trendy businesses down there now than they ever used to. It used to be just kind of like old style businesses, and now it's a lot more trendy. So I think it is become more of a trendy area, like where younger people, because they have like a apartment complex down there in that area now that's supposed to be like a higher end, like you have to have security to get in, kind of New York style apartments.
I know when we drove down to like Count's Customs there, we were driving out of that area, and I wasn't really familiar with that area, but she's like, man, it's like way better down here than it used to be.
Yeah.
Even though there's still like a lot that needs to be dealt with, but like there had been improvements, like old falling apart buildings were actually like renovated and getting, used for something now or whatever. So I think that's kind of like pushing forward with like modern times or whatever. They're running out of space too, right? So
Yeah.
they need to it's so expensive now, so people have to think of outside the box a little bit. There's other things too, like if you were going to go as a family too, we talked a little bit about like going maybe to like together, but if you were going to take your whole family, which we have, right?
Yeah.
Obviously you've lived there too, but there's tons of things to do.
We kind of talked about Circus already. We've talked about that as an indoor park and wanting to go back, and that was a good experience. And then there's, just the different things. Like, I've always wanted to take them to the Mom Museum. I went to the Mom Museum when I lived in Vegas when the older kids were little, and I just think it's such a cool experience. Like, I think that it really is like a fun experience to do with a family and with kids and things like that. If you're into history and like you want to know the history of the mob, I think it's really cool. I haven't taken you there yet.
It's funny because I've been there so many times, and it's just like it absorbs you, right? It takes so much time. Like, especially like me and her, we really get like, if we were to go to say a museum, or if we were to go to like a different hotel just to look around or whatever, we get like super like immersed in it, right? So like somebody might just walk through and be like, in 10 minutes they're cool with it, and we like to see everything. We want to know about it. We want to see.
Yeah.
And so I haven't seen a lot of these things, right?
Because of us, so we go to a museum, and it's like we'll spend hours and hours there, right?
Yeah. I've never been to the Neon.
The Neon Boneyard.
Yeah, Neon Boneyard. I haven't been to the Mom Museum. There's a whole bunch of like that kind of stuff that's maybe sort of towards tourists, but even like a lot of the locals do too. So that's more of like after you've been there a few times, maybe that's some of the things you can go and see and do whatever. Like I said, the biggest downfall around there is there's no, obviously, they do have Lake Mead, which you could do things, but it's not.
It's gross.
Yeah.
Don't go there. I don't care what anybody says, don't go there. That's where the dead
But there's some
bodies
pretty
are
cool stuff. I went there at Christmas one time there, and there's just endless stuff. Every hotel's decorated. I went to Henderson. They had this like huge outdoor
their
light show basically or whatever,
where
you walk around or you
yeah,
it's like really cool. There's just like so many cool things like that. Just even doing like the pool things. There's so many like cool pools at the hotels in Vegas there. If you just want to hang out and have a chill vacation and not do anything, that's cool too.
And
right?
as a local, there's a ton of like YMCA type pools that are like little like almost like a little water park type thing. We used to do that all the time when I lived there. So there's a lot for both ends of it. Like if you're staying at the Strip or if you're living there, I think there's a lot for that.
We tried going to the Mandalay Bay water park last time, and we almost got in because our pool was broken, I guess. And so they just about let us in, and then they denied us. So we still haven't been there. I haven't been there anyways.
Yeah, I've been there many times, and I love it. Like I think it's one of the best pools. Like they have the lazy river and the wave and all that. So I've been there quite a few times. Actually, like my parents used to come to Vegas, and they would stay there. So that's the only thing about living in Vegas. You always have people come and visit you, so you can go try out these different hotels. So I think I've tried pretty much every pool at all of the hotels, but I haven't necessarily stayed there. So
I feel like what we were just talking about this before the show, like what's kind of pushed me away from wanting to go there as much as that we're like, it's gotten so busy. It's like she said, it's almost like to the point where it feels like more like Los Angeles or New York or something like that, where it's like so big now and there's so many people and it's almost like there's too many people for the city. Like, I don't know, what did you think when you drove around last time?
I think even like, I was telling him when I flew in, I couldn't believe how much the city expanded from the last time I flew in. I was like, holy cow, like the city's expanded so much. And then, I go to get my rental car and it takes like 20 minutes just to get out of the rental car parking lot because so many people had a rental car and you had to like check every car out as you drove out. So it took like, after you got your rental car and you were actually in it, it took like another 20 minutes just to get out of the parking lot.
That's crazy.
And then you get out onto the freeway and it's like, I know how to drive there because I lived there for so long and I knew what exits to take before, but there's so much construction going on because they actually built this whole bypass for the racetrack, that racetrack that they had set up.
Yes.
And then they decided to tear the whole bypass down because they didn't need it anymore. And then the Super Bowl came, and so they had to rebuild the whole bypass. And now they're talking about tearing it down again until the next race comes because they're doing this whatever, is it the Grand Prix or?
I should know this. I do know this.
Anyway, I don't know what race it was, but it's coming back. They have a 10-year contract with Vegas, so they're coming every year. So they've pulled down this bypass twice now, and they're putting it back up. So it's just a mess. Like, it's a disaster. And then you have so much traffic on top of all that. It's like, why are they wasting this money putting up the same bypass and tearing down the same bypass when they know already that stadium is going to be used for big events?
Yeah, I think in my personal opinion is like what's kind of steering me away from it is like putting all these big like stadiums so close to the strip.
Yes,
it's too close.
I agree.
People would still go if it was, at a mile off the strip or something like that. People would Uber there, or they would take the bus, or maybe a shuttle from the airport or from the hotels or whatever, right? So that's really kind of got me like, because it's so busy traffic wise there,
down there,
and it's like hard to drive down there now. And I'm a person that can drive anywhere, but it's like it just gets to be like, okay, there's just too many people. You can't fit in the parking lots anymore. You can't find a parking spot if you drive down there. It's like, so I think that's been a turn off for me personally or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. We were just talking about like how all these things have changed, but I think if you're going to go there as a tourist, and I think everybody should go there once at least and see what it's all about, because it's super cool, I think, to see at least one time in your life. It's the size of these hotels and the just sheer mass and the lights and all this stuff. I mean, I think it's somebody, and it's still a pretty affordable getaway. It's just not like super cheap like it was. I mean, nothing is these days, but so I think it's just something that everybody should go see once. It's that if you're going to go as a couple, you could stay in a nice hotel, cheap hotel, whatever, get your player's card, try to get a good deal online, however you're going to do it there. I think you should rent a car even if you are going for your first time, unless you're scared to drive around, but go off the strip a little bit, maybe just try some different restaurants off the strip, do some of the little local things and some stuff like that. And then if you're taking your family, there's a ton of family things to do there. It doesn't have to be the strip stuff, but there is tons to do on the strip too. If you're going to gamble, I think we were talking about this.
Well, it depends how much you want to spend.
Yeah, if you're a big, I feel like anyways, the strip is going to be the worst odds, right? Like, so I feel like, this is just my opinion, but I think you have a better chance from my personal experience of gambling over the years there. When I went off strip to go to like Palace casinos or go to like something like that, Orleans, whatever it is, I always did way better there. So, just something to kind of think about there. Not saying you shouldn't gamble there, you do whatever you want or whatever, but I think that's just, you can gamble for less. So if you're a person that just wants to sit there and gamble and you don't want to spend like $1 a pull, she stayed at Arizona Charlie's last time because it was close to where she needed to be there. It's super cheap to gamble there, right? So you can just gamble cheap. You just want to have a drink and just, kind of burn some time without having to spend $1,000 an hour, right? Like, so I think there's things like that. But yeah, that's kind of like the bulk of it. There's day trips that you can take, like Grand Canyon. You can go to the Hoover Dam.
Red Rock. I mean,
you can drive to California in a day if you really want to.
There's not desert. What is it called? Death Valley. The park isn't even that far from there, like the national park, and it's beautiful. I mean, especially if you're not going right in the middle of summer. Don't go in the middle of summer. I'm telling you, I've been there. It's 135 degrees. But there are so many beautiful places to actually see there. None of it is water related, of course, but I mean, the desert is just as beautiful. There is beauty in it, especially if you're going like as a tourist to see something cool and different. I think there's so much to see. I mean, Arizona is only 2 hours away. Like if you wanted to jump over the border and look
Yep.
at some of Arizona, you could do that too. Like there's a lot to do there, day trips right from there. And
Yeah, like I said, Southern California is a day trip if you just want to go out there for whatever.
Yeah.
Check things out or whatever. I mean, it's once you get there, it's a very, very populated, so it takes a lot more time once you get down there. But yeah, just kind of knowing the days people travel, you know, to California, for example, and making sure you don't get caught in the busy
in the traffic.
Yeah, exactly. So
I mean, I'm pretty sure we could cover a whole nother show about like how many cool local things there is to do there. This was just barely scratching the surface of what you could do as a tourist. I'm sure we could do like an entire show on what there is to do there. And I was surprised, even going back after not living there for 10 years, how many cool trendy things there are now. Like when I lived there, there was one coffee shop. Like, I mean, besides Starbucks, there was one real coffee shop, and now there's like so many to choose from. So
yeah, I think with us, we've been there. I mean, she's lived there. I've been there so many times now. I still like going, and I would still go. If I was gonna spend money on vacation, I would probably go somewhere else now, just because whatever. Like, I think the points thing is kind of, you know, like as far as losing. If you don't keep up with your points and using them regularly and things like that, you'll end up losing them now and things like that. So that steers me away a little bit too. But you know, it's just like I've kind of seen so much of it now, and I would go back, but it just.
I don't know. We also feel like, you know, just kind of on the tail ends of that there's so much in our nation to see besides Vegas. And I think before we were kind of closed-minded to where like we'd always go back to the same place because it was cheaper. And just realizing that there are so many cool places to see, and this is just one of them. So if you haven't been there, go see it. But if you've been there, I understand to go somewhere else because you've already seen it, and that's fair, right?
I think that's what it was before. Is everybody could go for super cheap, and now that that's not really there, well, why would I continue to go there regularly when I can go to like New York for the same price, for example, or I can go to Florida for the same price, or I can, you know, like there's so many. It's all kind of about the same now, if not even probably less, to be honest, by the time you really look at it. So, you know, but I think you should go there once, and that's kind of our opinions on it. So
it's time.
It is time. So what did one hat say to the other hat? Stay here. I'm going on ahead. You should have wore a hat on this show.
Yeah,
it would have been a good hat show. So I decided today's Oklahoma fact would be revolved around casinos, because why not? I mean, so today you actually will find 33 of the state's 38 tribes operating 143 casinos. Oklahoma has more Native American casinos than any other state in this nation.
That's funny, because I was driving the other day. I was like, man, another casino. I was like, and there really is. It seems like there's a lot. And the crazy part is most of them are pretty good size. It's not like they're just little corner stores or something. They're like a full casino, like what we would consider a small casino in Saskatchewan, for example. It's like a big casino here.
What's really cool
like a
is
big
that
casino there is a
almost
small one here.
all of them have live entertainment, and that's one thing I really enjoy is that we
Yeah.
can go to live entertainment at all of them.
And good live entertainment, which is cool. You know, some places are free, some places that they charge, but it's all affordable, and it's like they put it on really well. So I think that's cool. But all right, guys. Well, thanks for watching. I'm TK's Garage 405.
And I am free and on the road.
Thanks for watching again. We'll try to keep up better this time, and hopefully we get caught up here a little bit and get ahead of ourselves. Thanks for watching.
Have a good day.